the good, the bad, and the ugly. Meet my Peperomia family. G'day my wonderful planty friends. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Kathy and this is where I talk about all my favourite things, and I have a lot of favourite things. For all my return visitors, thank you all so much for coming back every week. I really do appreciate you. So today I am going to introduce you to my Peperomia collection. The good, the bad, and the very ugly. And unfortunately, that is an apt description of my Peperomia collection. Before we get started, I did want to say something to all my fellow Melburnians. It's been a hard slog, but I'm now very much looking forward to seeing you all out and about. If people aren't aware, Melbourne has been under lockdown for almost 4 months. I think it was 112 days. And things are finally opening up, so it's very exciting for all of us who've had to put up with not seeing our families and not being able to go anywhere or do anything. And I'm actually very excited because now I will be able to go to Bunnings or nurseries, and I'm hoping to take you guys along with me, assuming that I don't freak out because I'm filming in public, because I'm extremely self-conscious when I film in front of other people. I'm actually in a very good mood today because my Plant Prices collaboration video has just come out and it has been very well received. So yes, it is definitely a good day. Now before we get started, I wanted to ask all of you, how many peperomias do you think I have? I will admit I was a little surprised at the number, but I'm not telling you if I thought it was too high or too low. And put it down in the comments. I really am curious as to whether any of you will guess. And at the end of the video, I'll let you know exactly how many I've got. And when I count them, I'm not going to include any cuttings or anything like that. I'm only going to include the mother plants. Okay. Now the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go chronologically, from the very first Peperomia I bought to the very last, as far as I can remember anyway. I may not always get the dates right because I can't recall absolutely every single one, but I'll do my best. And the very first plant we're going to start with is this. This is my Peperomia obtusifolia variegata. I remember when I saw this at Bunnings, it was probably around April of last year. So I've had this around 18 months now. At that time, I don't think I had more than say 5 or 10 plants. And I definitely didn't have anything variegated. And when I saw this, I thought, oh wow, I just love it. I really didn't know much about peperomias back then, but I loved the leaves, so I decided to add it to my collection. Now for most of the time that I've owned this, I've had it quite far back from my east-facing window, and it was really slow to grow. And unfortunately, a few months ago, I had a spider mite infestation, and the one that was attacked was right next to this. And this plant also got attacked by spider mites, but they definitely didn't like this one as much because they didn't do as much damage. I lost all of the lower leaves, that's why the stems are quite bare. So after treating it, I decided to give it a little bit more light to help it grow a little bit faster since I had lost so many leaves. And as you can see, she is growing really, really well. She's very happy where I've got her at the moment. And in fact, this is the second lot of growth. I've already taken 2 stem cuttings because I wanted to make it a bit bushier and fill it up down here because it's so bare. And these are all the stem cuttings that I took from the mother plant. I propagated them in my sphagnum moss box and they did very well. I've only recently put them in this pot, so I guess we'll see how they do. But I think they look quite healthy to me, so I think they'll do fine. I'm not intending to have 2 separate pots. I actually do want to add them back to the mother plant once they get a bit more established in soil. I must admit, I am extremely attached to this plant because it is my very first ever Peperomia. and it has given me an abiding love for all things peperomia, as you guys very well know. I filmed the rest of my Peperomia collection a few days ago, and now I'm going to insert that footage here. Now for the ugly. This is what is left of my Peperomia clusiifolia red edge. This one really saddens me actually. I believe I bought it at the same time as my variegata, and this one did very well for most of the time I've had it, except for the last few months. I thought perhaps it was winter, because it started dropping some leaves, quite a few leaves actually, and yet my watering hadn't changed, nothing had really changed, and there were absolutely no pests on it because I checked it obsessively. So I couldn't figure out what was going wrong with this. And as you can see, all that's left is a tiny little bit of greenery. When I noticed that it wasn't doing so well, I took a stem cutting, which I propagated in my prop box with the sphagnum moss. And it did very well, so I put it back in the soil with this. And then what did I do? I fiddled with it. I said, oh, it's not sitting quite right. Kept trying to straighten it up, and I rotted it. So I've taken it back out of the soil, I've cut off the dead part, and I've put it back in my propagation box, hoping it might propagate, but I don't know. And last week I put some of my plants that I had been propagating into soil, and I thought I'd check on those that were struggling, like this one. So I took it out of the soil, and I found that at the base of the plant, where the roots start, there was this hard chunk of, I believe, either peat moss or cocoa coir. It was almost like a rock, and it took me ages to break that soil down, but it was so hard, so compacted, that I wondered if perhaps it had been choking the roots. I really don't know, because after I got rid of that, I found that this had a lot of very healthy white roots. Now that it's free of that and I've repotted it, we'll see how it does. Because it has a tiny bit of greenery, I am hopeful, but I don't know yet whether it will survive or not. I am sentimentally attached to it because I've had it for such a long time. So send me some good plant vibes, because I think it definitely needs it. So number 3 is one I've just recently showed you guys, my Peperomia obtusifolia Jade. She's beautiful, isn't she? Oh, can never stop looking at her. I bought her in spring last year, and I would say she was no taller than that when I got her. So this is a lot of growth in 1 year. Because I had started collecting plants, I think it was March or April last year, by springtime I was champing to add more plants, so I bought quite a few, and she was one of the first, and I'm so glad I did. The next one I think I bought was the Peperomia Rosso. Yes, I think this is one of the bad and possibly ugly as well. It has been struggling for quite a while, and I was trying to figure out why. I really didn't know what was wrong with it, except perhaps that I might have repotted it badly. I am still very new, and I do think that with certain plants I've killed them because I haven't repotted them well. And I think this one I did not pot deep enough. And it has been looking like this for quite a few months now. It hasn't bounced back because of spring. So I took it out of the pot last week to investigate once more. And I found the same thing with this one that I found with my clusiifolia. There was a very hard chunk of soil at the base of the plant. And because this is a much finer, more delicate plant, the roots were very delicate. And I had a lot of difficulty trying to remove the soil and not destroy the roots. And I ended up with one root. Oh God. So I don't know if this will survive. I I really do hope it does, because it is such a beautiful little plant. But as you can see, it looks quite sickly. It does not have that beautiful reddish tinge anymore, and the leaves definitely are not shiny and bright. The only reason I realised that something was wrong initially was that all the new growths have been dying off. So yes, I'm not sure if this will survive. I hope it does, but I think it had one root for so much foliage. I'm expecting it to lose a few more leaves. However, it did put up with that for several months, so I don't know. Plants are resilient and surprising, and I'm still learning so much, so I guess we will find out if it will bounce back. When I repotted it, another part just broke away, so I've potted that one up into a separate pot, and I'm hoping that if I lose this one, then perhaps the other one will survive. I guess we'll find out. So yes, again, please send me good plant vibes for my ugly Peperomia Rosso. The next one is also an ugly. Well, actually no. This one is one of the bad. Ah, so sad. Oh, this is what is left of my Peperomia caperata emerald ripple. I've already gone into what happened with this one, overwatering, and I had several leaf cuttings that grew in my propagation box, which I've potted up. I find that the little propagations don't always take. It might be because I'm not watering them right. It might be because they're simply too delicate or too young. I really don't know. All that's left are 2 leaves, and I have been fiddling with it, and I'm trying very hard not to. Please don't do what I do, but do as I say. Don't fiddle with your plants. That is the easiest way to kill them, especially when they're trying to get established like this one is. And I'm now considering putting this in a humidity jar to hopefully save it. I don't know. Actually, that's a very good idea. I was just thinking that I've had some success with small propagations by putting a bag over them. So I might do that with this one and see if that will help it bounce back or get more established. I don't know. The next one you know as well. I have shown her several times on my channel. This is my Peperomia obtusifolia lemon and lime. A total beauty. She has done very well since I've repotted her. She's still growing, so I'm ecstatic and I haven't caused her any damage. Again, she was really small when I got her. And as you can tell, she has grown tons. The next plant I bought, which was probably in either late summer or autumn, was my Peperomia Piccolo Banda. And that's what it's like at the moment. The peperomias with finer leaves I find are much more susceptible to overwatering. And honestly, I did not think I was a heavy waterer, and yet I have killed several, or almost killed several. And this one I have definitely almost killed. However, several of the leaves had fallen from this one, so I put them in my propagation box and they all took. And I had tried to put it back in the soil with the stump. That's what I call what was left of the original plant. And unfortunately, perhaps the babies were too small, perhaps because it was winter, that cutting or leaf cutting didn't take. And just recently, my stump has started growing leaves. I am so excited. I am absolutely ecstatic that it is growing back. How wonderful is that? I've also put a few more leaf cuttings back in here with the tiny little babies. And I'm going to be very careful with this and hope that they will all survive. But I'm just so happy that my stump has resurrected. I consider this one to be one of my more successful rescues. but I won't consider this a full success until it is a little bit bigger than what it is right now. But honestly, it is the most adorable thing, don't you think? I think so. I just love looking at these little baby leaves. So I guess you can say this is one of the good. The next plant I bought was online, and I think it was in May of this year. And I have talked about this one before. This is what is left of my Peperomia prostrata, or string of turtles. So after all the issues I had with it, being in peat moss, I have repotted it, probably about a month ago now, and I've put it in a much faster draining mix. But that is all that's left. The only good thing is that they're still green. There has been some that have died back, and I don't know if these ones will survive, which makes me very sad because I really love the turtles. They're definitely one of my favourites. So I don't know. I'm giving it a lot of light, and I've been trying to follow the advice that you guys gave me during my May Day episode video. And again, thank you very much for all the wonderful advice that you guys did give me. But I'm not sure yet if it's going to bounce back. Unfortunately, the weather in Melbourne hasn't been very warm lately. We had a couple of nice weeks, and then we're back to our winter woolies. It might be once the weather gets a little bit warmer, it'll do better. I'm really not sure. I have found a baby plant, and I am considering buying that and adding it to this plant, but I don't know. I actually really like rescuing plants, even though I'm the one who almost killed them. Okay, now I need to go and get some more plants. So, what do you guys think? How many peperomias do you think I have? All right, be right back. Okay, now I did skip one apparently. I bought, and you've seen this one before, my Peperomia polybotrya, or Raindrop peperomia. I bought this one, I think it was November last year, so I've almost had her a year now. How great is that? But I've already talked about her, so I'm not going to go into further detail. The next peperomia I bought was, I think, from Bunnings around June, I believe it was, before we went into our second lockdown. And that is my Peperomia orba, or Pixie. Oh, isn't that just so adorable? And I really love it in this little pot, which I actually painted. I went through a stage last year where I ended up painting quite a few of my pots simply because I was sick and tired of white pots. I don't like white pots. And I don't know if you guys can see, but all of this is new growth because I actually topped this. I took a stem cutting from the top, and that is what this is. This little baby's coming out of here. It had grown so fast and so tall that I decided I wanted to make it a fuller pot. So I propagated them and I've put them back in the soil. And if you don't know the Pixie, they have felted leaves, or a little bit of felt on their leaves. So I love having this one. This sits next to my armchair where I sit every night, and I just love looking at it and then going off and petting its leaves. Oh, I just love this one. And it's so delicate looking, isn't it? How did Pam put it? She called it dainty, and I think that is the perfect description of this plant. The next peperomia I bought was from Nursery to You. I think it was in June or July. Probably July actually. I bought it online obviously. It was a little baby, and I had it in a tiny little terracotta pot, but I think it's pretty much outgrown that. And this is my Peperomia angulata, which is flowering. How gorgeous is that? Oh, I just love these. This one has kind of stripy leaves, which look very similar to the Peperomia tetragona, I think. Regardless, this one is a very easy plant, very quick grower. Honestly, I was shocked at how much growth it put on. I think it probably doubled in size since I got it. And it flowers profusely. But it's just adorable, don't you think? In that same order, I also got a couple of bonus plants, and one of them was this. Oh, look at that. This is my Peperomia Amigo Marcello, I believe it is called. It was also the star of my rant video. I really love this one. I don't know why, I just think it's gorgeous. And it's put on so much growth. I actually do turn this, and as you can see, I need to turn it now in this direction so that all the growth will become more even. But this is just gorgeous and a very, very easy plant as well. I don't think the leaves have felt on them, but they feel a little bit like suede. It's definitely easier than the caperatas, which I do struggle with. But yes, so that is my Peperomia Amigo Marcello. Okay, the next peperomias I bought were actually from nursery to you. Again, the second order I placed. I think I showed them in my zero plant haul. I thought I'd show you how they're doing now. I bought two peperomias then. One was the Peperomia caperata red, and that's all that's left. I know, it's basically a stump, not even a stump, I wouldn't call it that. It has been dying ever since I got it. I think the problem with this one was it got banged around in shipping and it just has not recovered. I was very careful with watering. I gave it a lot of light, but it didn't matter. It just kept dying. And I'm currently left with nothing. I'm going to try putting it in a plastic bag to give it some humidity and see if that might help it grow back. I doubt it. I think I may have lost this one, but unfortunately, that's the risk you take when you order plants online. Sometimes they don't ship well, and I think this one definitely did not ship well. And that is not the fault of the nursery. I think that's just what happens sometimes when plants are shipped. I have got one leaf that I saved before they all melted away. I should have taken more, but I didn't want to cut back the plant that much. I've got it in my propagation box and it might take, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But yes, I'm a little sad about that one because I haven't had it that long. The other one I bought at the same time was the caperata aluminium, which is this one. And I think it might be in need of a water. I haven't watered it yet. In fact, today is my watering day. Or when I check if my plants need watering anyway. This one is doing a lot better than the ruby. It's also putting out growth, which is wonderful. And I'm being very careful with watering because I know these are so sensitive to overwatering. It really is a wonderful colour. It has almost like a, I don't know what you call it, a khaki green or very pale khaki green and grey colour. It's quite different to other ones I have, and I do love the colouring on this one. So this is my Peperomia caperata aluminium. If you guys have been watching my channel, then you already know the next three plants that I'm going to show you, which I bought from Greenery House Nursery in Brunswick, and I had them in a video a couple of weeks ago. The first one is this, my Napoli Nights, which is flowering. Oh, I love it. I am so happy to see that because it tells me that the plant is very happy. I actually have this 4 meters back from my north-facing windows. I thought that peperomias needed more light, so I've been moving them all closer and closer to my windows, but it seems that they don't. It seems that 4 meters is quite sufficient for them. However, I will say that this room where it currently sits is very brightly lit. Regardless, it is flowering, which I just love. And the next one you've also seen, I just recently repotted my Peperomia caperata Moonlight. And I always do worry when I repot peperomias because I don't think I'm always successful, but she's flowering. How wonderful is that? Oh! So I think I can say I did a good job this time if she's actually flowering. and she's doing really, really well. And the last is, of course, my favorite of these, which is my Peperomia marmorata dark sunrise. Honestly, this one is just breathtaking and flowering, as you can see. The stems are actually pink, but the flowers, I don't know if you could call them flowers, the inflorescence, whatever you want to call them, they're kind of light tan colour that merges into a darker pink colour. Very strange. I don't care. I just think this is a stunner. And the very last plant is the one I just hauled last week, which is my Peperomia incana. I do love this plant, but I'm a little concerned because, as you can see, this leaf is turning a dark brown, almost black, which I think might be a sign of overwatering. I haven't taken this out of the pot, and I have just noticed that there is a new growth point, so hopefully it will bounce back. It's such a beautiful plant. I will be gutted if I lose this one. I just love touching this one. So this is my very last Peperomia, my Peperomia incana. So were any of you right as to how many Peperomias I have? According to my calculations, I have 18. I can't wait to read the comments and see what you guys came up with. So that was the good, the bad, and the very ugly. Do let me know which one of these Peperomias you like, which ones you would like to add to your collection, or if you have any that are a real favourite, I would love to hear. And you can put it down in the comments, or you can contact me on Instagram. Now, as you can see, obviously, I'm not successful with absolutely every single Peperomia I own. I do think it is a learning process. And I think perhaps because I started off with the more succulent-like Peperomias, such as the obtusifolias, I expected all Peperomias to be very similar, and they really aren't. And we can't always get it right the first time. So if you have killed or are close to killing any of your Peperomias, don't blame yourself. I think it's just part and parcel of being a plant parent. Now, I also wanted to ask you guys if you would be interested in me doing an in-depth care guide on the Peperomia obtusifolias. I don't feel that I'm qualified to talk about other Peperomias simply because I haven't always been successful, whereas I have had quite a bit of success with my obtusifolias. And frankly, I don't like doing care guides for plants that I haven't owned for a minimum of 6 months, preferably longer. I really think you need that amount of time to properly understand a plant and its care requirements. Anyway, it was just a thought. If you guys are interested, do let me know. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed meeting the good, the bad, and the ugly Peperomias in my collection. Thank you so much to all of you for hanging out with me. I really do appreciate it. And as usual, if you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to my channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. Until next time, take care, guys. Bye. If you guys have been watching my channel, the last preliminary, okay, now the last preliminary, I can't talk today, okay.